Hey, what's up, man?
Just hitting you up.
Hail!
Oh.
Welcome to the weather episode.
What's up, everybody? Gym Leader Justin.
And I'm Brandon Zero Schmucker.
Welcome to the next episode of the Pokemon Masterclass podcast. Today's the weather episode. We got a lot to talk about today. We've got a lot of singles news, doubles news, ranked ladder. But the main lesson of today, we're going to be kind of going into the basics and also the details of each of the four weathers in Pokemon, which are hail, rain, sun, and sand.
Should be a good episode. Weather is super fun.
Yep. We're going to go into a lot of details. We've got some teams set up for you. We're going to be showing out some team previews. We've got link codes for people to try out some of our teams for VGC and the singles ranked ladder. So it'll be a lot of fun.
All right, class is in session.
All right, so first, new segment today. Brandon, what I guess the first thing we should start off is the biggest news since the last episode, which is Zacian Crowned is the second ever, first of 8th gen Pokemon to get banned out of Ubers. So he's not allowed anywhere.
Banned out of Ubers. Well, you can play Anything Goes.
Anything Goes, exactly.
But if Anything Goes, you can bring 6 Dittos.
Exactly. So this is, out of any standard competitive Smogon format, he's
gone.
out of the game.
He's out.
So this is specifically Zacian Crown. So for people that don't know, the two new legendaries, the wolves, Zacian and Zamazenta, you can either take their standard forms or you can give them the rusted shield or rusted sword, respectively, items, and then they become their crowned versions, like you see right there, which the dog with the wings, and he's got the big sword in his mouth.
Or as I like to say, the goodest boy forms.
The goodest boy forms. They're good dogs. So yeah, he's banned out of Ubers. Previously, Mega Rayquaza was the first one to ever break through the stratosphere and get banned out of Ubers, but obviously not a factor here right now. So Zacian is going up there, joining him on Mount Olympus. He's going up there with the gods, and he's forever just gonna look down upon the rest of us peasants.
Yeah. So Good Boy got banned. Over 80% of people who did the suspect voted to ban him. Over 80%. That's crazy.
That is a very high margin, especially for something like this. Like, this isn't from UU to BL or from OU to Ubers, you might see some votes going up into the 80 percentile more often than not sometimes.
Yeah.
Like with Sneasel, I feel like back in the day in Hawlucha, there was quite a few votes a couple of times through 8th gen that have definitely hit up there. But yeah, from out of Ubers to have an
Ubers,
80%.
Yeah, 80% Ubers. Like, where broken things go, it was too broken.
It was too broken for the broken things.
Yeah. So,
that's a good way to put it, too. That really puts it in perspective.
as far as why he got banned,
was it because of the raw damage, or was it his typing? Is he tanky? What's
literally all of the above.
Really?
Because 148 speed, 170 base attack, and then anytime he enters the field, he gets a +1 in attack.
And what type is he? Pure Steel?
No, Steel Fairy.
Steel Fairy. Okay, just so everybody's on the same page. So he's Steel Fairy type. So he's got Behemoth Blade. What type is that's a
Steel type?
and then he's got Sacred Sword, which is really good. Do they run a lot of play roughs?
Yeah. They typically
or is
run,
it Wild Charge? I think for Kyogre.
Yep. So they'll typically run. They'll run Wild Charge. They'll run Play Rough. And they will run Behemoth Blade, and then the last spot they can Swords Dance if they want. Otherwise, I think you can do something like I think they get Crunch and stuff like that.
Okay, nice four attack spread with the sword.
You don't really need. Honestly, you don't need a 4th attack.
No,
you don't, because he hits so hard. The best things that countered him usually was physically defensive Necrozma Duskmane, but because people were running Assurance.
Why does he hit so hard? Talk about that first.
Well, 170 base attack,
and then
a +1 just
for existing. That's what the item. So this is why Zacian Crowned is banned. So we can take the regular dog.
Yeah,
we just can't equip. So essentially, it's not necessarily a Pokemon that got banned. It's the rusted sword item that is essentially banned.
Yeah, you can still bring regular doggo.
Regular Zacian. So you could bring a Zacian with a Choice Band, Focus Sash, Life Orb. So there is maybe a little variety. It's just more balanced, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe fair is a good way to put it.
Yeah. So the way that he was kind of checking things was, physically defensive Necrozma Duskmane was one of his best counters.
Ooh, yep.
People started running Assurance. So if Necrozma Duskmane came in on Stealth Rock, he took Stealth Rock damage, then he took Assurance damage, and then he was clean one-hit KO for close combat after that, I believe. Yep. And then the other...
Which is a big deal.
Yeah, so, just...
That can't be understated how much of a threat that is for just every general team in that team.
Yeah. And then the other option you had was Quagsire, which, kind of handled it well, but at the same time, it's like...
He doesn't have the stats to back it.
Yeah, he
the unaware is nice. The unaware is nice, and the typing.
Yeah,
but he doesn't have a single stat above 100. So
but the fact that he restricted your team building to have to include Quagsire in Ubers should say a lot about why this Pokemon needed to go.
Exactly. Yep.
So, yes, and then obviously he cuts through Dynamax. Well, I mean, if you play in a Dynamax format. You don't play that on Showdown, but
no, not on Showdown.
But it's a 200 base move when he's up against the Dynamax, so it basically just cuts all of the bulk that you get from Dynamax is literally just erased. Yeah, because of Behemoth Blade.
Yep.
So yeah, as far as Zacian, I think that's all I got to say.
Yeah, it's really nice. I'm obviously the only person in our gaming group that is playing Sword. Everybody else has Shield. So this is it. Only really affects me in terms of what we have on cart. But in terms of Showdown, yeah, it's a really big deal.
Yeah.
That was the biggest news, but we do have a few. This has actually been over the past 2 weeks since the last podcast. There actually have been quite a few bans. You want to talk about those?
Yeah. So as far as the next ban goes, Spectrier is being he's not banned yet. He's suspect tested.
So we have a lot of bans that have already happened, and we have suspect tests that are currently. So what is a suspect test for people that might not be familiar with Showdown? Just a real quick.
Suspect test is basically they're kind of putting this Pokemon on a timer, and people are going to play and decide whether or not it should be banned or not. So Spectrier could be gone. I believe this one runs into the beginning of February.
I think so. Yep, they're suspecting right now. I think 4 or 5 pokes.
Things that get tested almost always get banned. The last one I can think of that did not get banned was Cinderace. Did not get banned from National Dex.
Yes.
Libero Cinderace.
Libero.
As far as Spectrier goes, I'm surprised they tested this before Magearna.
So for people that don't know, this is the new legendary, the Ghost Horse.
Yeah, Ghost Horse.
Getting suspect tested in OU. So if it were to get banned, it'd be only allowed in Ubers.
Yeah. So because Urshifu Dark got banned, like we talked about last time, that really strong Sucker Punch option is not really in the tier right now.
Yep.
So that makes it really hard. You can run things like Shadow Sneak, Aegislash, but at the same time, you're weak to him. You're weak to Ghost. Yep. So I mean, you can't switch in on it. He obviously snowballs his other teams. He snowballs teams that aren't ready for him with Grimnay. So when he gets a KO, he gets a special attack boost.
Yep. It's one of those win more Pokemon. If you're already winning, he helps you win more.
Yeah, and if he has Substitute and you have a Sucker Punch Pokemon and you make that play wrong, you lose because the Substitute Will-O-Wisp Calm Mindset.
Yep.
I believe the Calm Mindset. That's like
I have seen some of those, and I don't want to. That's one thing to talk about Spectrier. Sort of a devil's advocate, but I'm not necessarily saying that I think he should stay in OU. But just one thing in the cons list is his move pool.
Yeah,
it's actually pretty weak. He doesn't have good coverage.
No.
So if you do have something that either straight up like a normal type is immune to his normal types are probably one of the premier checks and balances to Spectre because that's his stab Shadow Ball is like such a big crutch that he leans on.
The problem with that is I don't know necessarily off the top of my head, are there any good normal types in OU?
Yeah, that's the problem. Is you definitely have to dip down, and play to the meta in that respect, and it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. He does come up with Pollen Puff too, which is a really strong bug move.
But honestly, after a couple boosts, he doesn't need anything but Shadow Ball.
Yep.
So.
Yep. It's really tough.
Yep.
That's a tough spot to be in.
The Substitute Will-O-Wisp set, if you guess wrong.
Yeah. He also gets Taunt too, and he's in a really nice speed tier. I haven't seen too many taunts on the singles ladder, but I have come up a couple in VGC practice.
Yeah.
So
you'll see him.
Yep. Taunt Spectre is actually a really big problem was actually just watching an episode on YouTube the other day on Cybertron's channel, and he was using his Tapu Lele and Slurpuff combo. Did you happen to see that?
I haven't seen that one
yet. It was
yet.
really nice. So it was the Psychic Seed Unburden.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
So he's using that to be a
yeah.
super fast Slurpuff. So essentially, it's kind of like a prankster support.
Yeah.
And he has Yawn and a bunch of. But anyways, he got taunted by a Spectrier, and it was a real big check to that. So taunt is one of those you use taunt a lot, and it's actually. It can be a really big deal, especially on one of those clutch turns.
I went up against the Taunt Spectrier in the Players' Cup 3, which we'll talk about in a few minutes.
Yep.
So
that's a big one. It's something to definitely keep your eye out.
Yeah.
So if you had to put your finger to the wind, is he going to get banned? Or you think he's going to stay in OU?
If you like using Spectrier on Showdown, I think you should get all the usage out of him right now. Get as many points with him right now as you can, because I think he's going to be gone.
Alrighty, well I'm actually going to lean a different way. Just we'll make it fun. What do you guys think? Is Spectre going to get banned or not? Leave it down in the comments what you think, yes or no. I'm voting no. I think he's going to stay OU. Brandon thinks he's going to get banned to Ubers. We'll see who's right.
Yeah. All right, you want to talk about the next one, Lottie?
Yeah, absolutely. So the next suspect test is one that's near and dear to my heart, being a Hoenn rep. Latias is being suspected in UU, which means if she did get banned, Little Sister would then be borderline, which would essentially make her OU right next to Big Brother Latios, which is kind of an interesting proposition because, maybe you'd want to touch on this in a minute, but the difference between the two and what that would mean if they were both in the same tier, because I feel like Big Brother just kind of outshines her in every way.
Yeah, I think if she gets banned and she's forced into OU, you're going to see a lot more especially defensive sets, because I think Latios
utility.
Yeah, Latios does the offensive job so much better. Their coverage is almost identical, I believe.
Yep.
And
but Latios has a 20 points higher base special attack.
Oh yeah, Latios. Yeah,
Latios has more special attack.
Yeah. So I think that's what you're going to see. Offensively, you want to talk about her offensively?
Yeah.
Because
so
you use the
reason,
variant.
that's actually one of my favorites. When we were doing the testing for the actually some of the battles for the Caesar vid that we put out a week or two ago.
Check that out.
Check that out on our YouTube channel. Nice little plug.
Yep.
We actually both used Latias in some of our suspect team or some of our testing teams there. I used a timid specs variant, and you went with the special defensive. You had the utility set, Healing Wish. We were talking about this, in our sort of pre-show notes, that it's definitely the offensive variant that's the reason for the suspect test. Mm-hmm. She's got really good coverage, base 110 special attack, base 110 speed. She's psychic and dragon. Mm-hmm. Good typing. Good coverage is probably the biggest thing to know. So A, her speed tier, B, her damage, but her dual stab coverage is really nice. But then her coverage in general, she gets Thunderbolt, Ice Beam. She can do Energy Ball. Now this gen, which we mentioned in the first episode, some of the picks that we liked was the fact that they get Aura Sphere and Mystical Fire now, which are really common.
That's a big one.
The Mystical Fire is huge. So a big set that Smogon highlighted themselves was the Roost. Because, of course, on the Smogon ladder, you can still use transfer moves. So they had Roost, Mystical Fire, Psy Shock to deal with Chansey in the tier, and then which obviously hits on the physical side, and then Draco Meteor with a Life Orb. So you've got really nice coverage options there.
Yeah. I think the unpredictability is part of it, too.
Yep.
It's just so hard to plan against Latias because it can fill in like literally any offensive gap that you have. Like if you have trouble dealing with ground type Pokemon, well, she learns
Ice Beam and Energy Ball.
She learns and Surf. I believe she learns Surf too.
Yep, lots of good
Hydro
options.
Pump. Like she can literally fill any role, which kind of makes her hard to play against. What do you think as far as if she's going to get banned or not?
If she's going to get banned, I do think she's going to get banned. Actually, I hope she doesn't because I like I like being able to use Latios in OU and Latias in UU, but. in terms of, putting my emotions aside, I do think for fairness, I think she's a bit too strong. She's just an incredible wall breaker in the UU tier right now. Unless you're fairy type and you're just straight immune, or maybe certain steel types that are bulky enough. But
if they're not teching Mystical Fire.
Choice Specs Draco Meteor is going to do a lot of damage to basically everything.
Yeah.
That's not fairy.
Yep.
Specially defensive Bronzong, maybe. Specially defensive Registeel if they brought that up, maybe. But again, it's
Chansey's your biggest counterplay.
Chansey's the counterplay, but you're Psyshock.
At the same time they read that, you get Psyshocked.
You get Psyshock, and you still have Aura Sphere, which hits super effective. And if you're running either a Life Orb or an Expert Belt, I mean...
And then you can roost off damage if they don't have Toxic.
Yep, and depending on the game state, whether or not that Chansey still has the Reviolite is a big deal.
Yeah.
With or without it would make a difference.
Yep.
But what about you? Do you think it's going to get banned, or do you think we should stay in UU? Little sister.
I want it to stay in UU. I don't want it to see its usage go down.
Yeah.
I think it is going to get banned. I don't want to see it get banned because then
I think if it gets banned, we don't see it very much.
Yeah, why would you run Latias over Latios? But then, if you want to run her for her utility, that kind of removes...
She does get defog.
It removes the option of running Latios.
Yes.
You shouldn't have
it's one or the
Psychic
other.
Dragons on your team.
Correct.
I mean, if you want to, that's great. But yeah, I think it'll get banned, unfortunately.
Yep.
You want to talk about the last really relevant ban?
Are there any more suspect tests?
Yeah, we do actually have more suspect tests. So as far as suspect tests, we got Virizion getting suspect tested in PU.
There are a lot of PU suspects, weren't there?
Yeah. Spectrier is getting tested in National Decks as well as NU. So that's the format that it lets you use Mega Zanzi moves in any Pokemon, all the moves and all that. Sigilyph has been banned from NU. That's another one I don't necessarily agree with, but I mean, we won't talk too much about that.
Yeah. It can be pretty strong with the Calm Mind stored power sets or the Air Sled. Yeah.
Yep. Thunderous is getting suspect tested. This is Thunderous Incarnate.
Yep.
The I version is getting suspect tested from RU. And then we have...
And that would make both Thunderous forms UU.
Yeah. And then finally we have Roserade, who has been banned from PU. You got any thoughts on this?
We do, actually. You and I have played quite a bit of PU so far over the past month and a half. While they were doing some testing, getting the tiers sort of balanced out and evened out with all the new, Crown Tundra updates. There's a lot of fluctuations in the tier. And we have been using Roserade quite a bit. She's been one of our go-to picks. I've used her a lot.
I've used Roserade in every tier that she was allowed in. So I think when the game first came out, was she UU or RU, whatever tier she has been in, I have used her in that tier to a lot of success.
Yeah, we've had a couple different sets on cart. We play a lot of our battles on cartridge, but our showdown sets are based off of our carts or vice versa. So, for us, it's usually pretty interchangeable. I've had a lot of success with a set that's a little different, but it's basically spikes, toxic spikes, and then dual stab, Giga Drain, Sludge Bomb. There's another set that I really like, which you run kind of like the Sceptile, where you can run Leaf Storm, Giga Drain. You have that dual stab. Yep. She can get, she doesn't have Unburden, but you can run the White Herb on there, so you can run off a second. Leaf Storm is really strong. She gets the Stab, Sludge Bomb, and Dynamax formats. That becomes Max Ooze. That's really nice.
Strong,
we had a couple of sweeps with that.
Yeah, and then Moonblast to kind of round out coverage. The only thing
Moonblast is really good. Weather Balls there is nice. You could have that option.
Yeah, I think the only thing she doesn't really hit is Steel types.
No, she doesn't hit Steel types very well. And that's always a little bit of an issue. But... she's got a really decent speed tier, but a really nice special attack. So she really hits hard. You could go Timid with a Life Orb, and she just kind of slaps.
Yeah, and then another thing is that unpredictability factor that I've talked about with Latias. This Pokemon can run Spikes, Toxic Spikes, Sleep Powder, Aromatherapy.
Ooh, yep, the Sleep Powder's a big one.
I have a Toxic Spikes. I have a Sleep Powder one. I have a Gadget one. So that unpredictability. Is another reason. Just kind of never know what you're going to get.
I think Scarf is a decent set too.
Yeah. No surprise here to either of us that she got banned out of PU.
No, we were actually surprised that it took so long.
Yeah, we were. That's one we had eyeballed that we were like,
We were suspecting her to actually just get moved up based on raw usage.
yeah, exactly. And Braviary. Braviary's still hanging out. In
Braviary's still
Use
down here,
Braviary, people. He's good.
He's very good. He's insanely good.
Do it for America.
He's the best bird.
I think that's it for bands and stuff, right?
Yeah, the bands and suspects. I think that's it. But yeah, there's a lot of testing going on, and this is obviously we're about a week away from the new tier change, which will be the first of the 3-month implementations for Smogon since 8th Gen started.
We might be doing solo vids on some of those. You know, if we get like big bands and stuff like that, we might just do a vid.
Big highlight
that
news
day. You know, like
reels.
if Spectria gets banned, we might talk about it. I don't know if we'll have to specifically for that, but yeah. So I think we're gonna move on to Players Cup 3. We're gonna talk about our experiences with Players Cup 3. I guess I'll go first. So I talked about my team a little bit last time. As far as my record goes, day 1, I went 7-4. Day 2, I did 8 hours of schooling at 6:30 in the morning, and then I went and I did Players Cup 3 matches, and I finished 5-5 that day, so not my best day. And then the last day, I just did not. I just didn't play well. I think people really seem to bring their A game, and my team.
Sunday was a tough day.
My team.
Sunday was a lot more difficult.
My team seems to really drag out games. Like the team that I brought, I don't really steamroll people. Like
More of a grind.
It's always a grind. So I didn't. That grind kind of took.
It's kind of taxing after the whole. It was a long tournament.
Yeah, like when
you played more than I did, and you played double the amount of games. You know, real life got in the way. We'll talk about mine in a minute, but you played a lot more games than me, so I can imagine that it's.
I finished 6-7 that day. Yeah, I did, and by the end of the day, on my third day, like I could tell.
You're just ready to put it down, man.
I could tell I was so out of it because like my last game, I was like playing this game and it was like super intense, and I was like, and then I was just so into it that I didn't even realize that, like, I got to a point where I was like, oh man, I lost. I had a Celesteela in the back the whole time. Like, I didn't know that I had it. Like, I literally
just, like mentally
forgot I had a fourth. Yeah, like, so then, like, I lost that game. That put me under 500 for the day, and I was like, well, you know what? I don't think I'm qualifying now, so.
Yep, that's how it goes. So how did you feel overall with your team?
I liked my team. I think most of the mistakes, obviously, were user error. I finished 18-16, so I finished over 500, and I felt pretty good about that.
Winning record?
Yeah, I got a winning record. I peaked at 1,700, which is pretty good. I don't think I, like, ever went...
That's higher than I peaked. That's really well.
Yeah. No, didn't you peak higher, though?
I don't think so.
I think on day 1 you peaked higher.
Oh, I might have day 1. Yeah.
We'll talk about your team in a second. I'll help you jog your memory.
Yeah.
My team... I liked my team. I think maybe it needed some more immediate offense instead of like some setup stuff. As far as threats go, things that I did not expect to be good. First of all, against my team, and second of all, like in general, Heatran.
Dude,
I saw so much.
Talk to me about Heatran. That was a big deal this tournament.
I lost to so many Heatrans. I don't know if I beat like a single Heatran team because they were all running the ground berry where they reduce ground type super effective damage.
Is that the Shuka berry?
Is it Shuka? I don't know.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think it's Shuka. But either way, so they would Dynamax, and like I would have my horse out Dynamax, and they would still live the Max Quake. And then a lot of times they were paired with Grimmsnarl fake tiers, so they were lower. Tiers. So basically, it gave Heatran
and then he could just melt you with the flare.
And so it was good against my Glastrier, good against my Celesteela.
Oh, yep.
Who else did I have? Oh, Cradily. It was good against my Cradle. So all of my like really
because I had the stab flash cannon.
Good against my Grims. So all of my offensive options, all 4 of those, were weak to Heatran.
That's really rough, buddy.
Yeah.
So you said you didn't come up against one that you beat?
I don't think I beat a single Heatran team.
Oh, that's rough.
I don't think I beat one.
What about things that you handled well? Was there any big threats in the meta that you're like, okay, I actually feel pretty comfortable in that matchup?
Landorus.
Landorus?
I didn't have too much trouble with Landorus. The only trouble I had with Landorus was when they're like U-turning out and stuff.
Okay.
But he was kind of a non-factor. I did really well against Lapras.
Nice.
I saw a lot of Lapras Raichu lead, which is very similar to my Celesteela Raichu lead.
Well, I'm assuming the Gigantamax Lapras for the Veil.
It was Gigantamax. I have Brick Break on
Going
Raichu.
back to some Series 6 and 7 tech.
Yeah. So I handled those teams really well with I would fake out, or they would lead Whimsicott too. So they would want to do Tailwind with Whimsicott and then set up an Aurora Veil.
Okay, yep.
With the Gmax Lapras.
Yep.
I shut that down really well because I would fake out I always led with Celesteela. I would fake out the Whimsicott, and then I would Airstream into Whimsicott. So I would pick up a KO on
Fake
Whimsicott.
out with Raichu.
So the Tailwind never went off. I got a special attack boost. I'm wearing an Assault Vest,
So come at me.
So come at me. And then they would get their Veil up, and then the next turn I would just break it with
Sounds like you
Raichu.
took those kids to school, man.
I took those kids. Those kids got taken to school. So I did pretty well against those teams. As far as like things I think I need to improve on.
Yeah. Not necessarily improve. My question would be, is there something that you would, in hindsight, change about your team other than, you said maybe user errors in a couple of games, but in terms of your actual team layout, maybe a move, maybe a poke, maybe an ability item? Hindsight's 2020.
As fun as I would have to remove Cradily or Grimmsnarl because I put Cradily on the team to handle the Colossal thing, and I never saw it once.
Really?
Never saw it once.
I saw one Colossal the whole tournament. I saw a few in practice, other than when Doug tried it out. One of our teammates tried it out in practice against us. He didn't end up going with a Colossal for his actual tournament team. But yeah, we did not see a lot at all throughout the tournament.
Yeah. So, as far as things that I think I could do better, I need to get better with reading opponents' Dynamaxes and my own Dynamaxes. I was very predictable in my Dynamaxes, I think. Like, I would see Grimmsnarl across the field, and they would have Raichu, I'd have Raichu and Celesteela out, and they had Grimmsnarl. Well, I'm going to fake out the Grimmsnarl and Max Steel Spike into it. So they would switch out every time. I would just get too eager, just chomp at the bit to get that KO and get the
maybe
boost,
a little more patient with the early game.
Yeah. That's my Players Cup 3 experience. How about yours?
You had fun all?
Yeah, I had fun. I improved on the last one. I learned a lot.
Definitely feel like we improved from Players Cup 2 to 3, which is obviously the whole point. As long as we feel better yesterday versus today.
Yep, I won't be playing in bracket, so
no,
don't look for me.
But that's
there.
all right though. That's not necessarily what we do this for. We do it because we want to learn and get better. Because we, most of our competitive career, if you want to call it that, in Pokemon has been in singles. Yeah. VGC is something that
we're still kind of new.
Yeah, Generation 8 is the first time that we have competitively dove into the doubles format. Yeah. We've played it throughout our lifetime, but never in a serious competitive fashion.
Yeah.
So
you want to talk about your experience with PC3?
Yeah. If you want to, you got a screenshot of mine up there too?
I do have your team. Let's take a look at his.
All right, so yeah, right here, this is like we talked about last episode. This is the team preview and rental code if anybody wants to try it out.
Still got a few days before Series 8, and we'll be talking about that in a minute.
Oh, yeah. So this is my Sand Trick Room team. Overall, I only ended up getting to play 15 games throughout the whole tournament, not the 45. I work in a restaurant where we work a lot of weekends.
Yeah, it happened to be over a weekend.
But Friday I got a lot of games in, and then Saturday I didn't end up getting to play at all. And then Sunday I got quite a few games in before my night shift. So I ended up going 10-5, so I ended up having a pretty decent record. Although, admittedly, if I would have played as many games, maybe up to 30 games, I probably would have been a little bit closer win record to you or somebody else.
I liked your team though.
But
I thought it was pretty strong.
Yeah, I do too. But so overall, I had a 66% win rate. I'll take that every day of the week. That's a hell of a big improvement compared from PC2 to PC3. It's just miles different. So I'm pretty pleased with it. Yep. Overall, I felt comfortable in almost every matchup. I felt like even in hindsight, even if I lost, I felt like in hindsight, if I were to go back and sit down by myself or with you or with anybody, like, hey, did I have an answer there? I don't remember a time where the answer was just clearly no, you just lost.
Yeah, it's unlike my team that was just like super obviously weak to Heatran.
Yeah, we didn't actually use or see much in testing.
Yeah, I was not prepared for Heatran.
I ended up fighting 2 Heatrans in the tournament. The first one I ended up losing, but just barely, and then we talked about it afterwards and changed up my game plan. And when I came up against the second one, it was for me, it was a little simpler. I led Incineroar Primarina, just like our game plan. And that was actually the only game in the tournament where I actually Dynamaxed Primarina.
Good Dynamax.
Really good Dynamax there. It's normally not the main threat because it's not Sandstorm and it's not anything on this team. Setting up rain and everything. But being able to being able to fake out and then Hyper Voice is what I ended up doing, and then the next turn I Dynamax. But anyways, I'm digressing a little bit. But the point is, I ended up taking out the Heat Train game that time. But yeah, so overall, the biggest, I would say the biggest MVP was honestly a tie between Bronzong or Incineroar. But in the actual tournament, it would be a tie between Incineroar and Gigalith. Yeah. Gigalith came in handy a lot because, you need either Dusclops or Bronzong to set up the Trick Room. But once it is, as soon as they proc, because he brings in the Sandstorm, so it's a max HP and +1 Spec D.
Yeah.
So it's like he's got an Assault Vest without having an Assault Vest.
Yeah.
So, and being able to protect, somebody slams a Dynamax move into you, you take very little damage, and then procs your weakness policy.
Yep.
And then he's able to fire off a move or Dynamax afterwards, and he just one-shots everything. Mm-hmm. It's really strong. The Intimidate plus the Parting Shot on Incineroar, while also being like adamant max attack with Life Orb. It's a defensive spread, but it is adamant max attack. Having that like offense, like straight down the center between offense and utility, that came in really handy.
It's kind of like your Primarina too. It was like it was just a nice cog that can do a couple different things.
Yep, really handy.
I think, didn't you peak around 1,500?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure after day one you're at 1,500, which is super solid. You had a really strong day one.
My day one I was 7-3.
Yeah, pretty strong.
Out of the first 10 games. Yeah, it felt pretty decent.
Anything you think you could do better?
Yeah, my prediction game wasn't as much as it wasn't as high as I would have liked. I didn't do terribly, all things considered. There were a couple times where I underpredicted and a couple times where I over, and that's just the nature of the game. We live and die by the RNG.
Yeah.
There were definitely some hacks factors that happened in on that last day.
Those hacks, man.
I got crit. I got crit by body press from a Registeel 3 turns in a row. He swept through 3 pokes on my team because he got 3 critical hits. One of them was a Bronzong that already had 2 Iron Defenses up, so it definitely mattered. It's one of those crits that matters.
Yeah.
But that's such as the game.
And then the Porygon.
Yeah, Porygon 2 froze my Cradily on a super clutch turn, super late game when I was going for I went for a cheeky Meteor Beam after the power up was already boosted, so it was like when we actually have to wait for the second turn.
Yeah.
And he only threw out 2 try attacks the whole game. This was the second one. The first one landed a critical hit on my Incineroar, and the second one froze my Cradily. My Cradily first turn thawed, but it was too late because the Meteor Beam was already... I had the boost, but the shot was already wasted.
Dude, long story short, this Porygon almost ruined Justin's life.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, so as far as...
It was a lot of fun,
yeah,
and we learned a lot.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest take, is that we really skyrocketed our prediction game and our team building, team preview analysis got a lot better.
Spending time in team preview and like really analyzing a team, I think we got better at that.
Yeah, we're miles ahead of where we were a couple of months ago in terms of VGC. So I feel comfortable.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so that kind of leads us into our next thing, actually. We're done with the Players' Cup 3, but we're not done with VGC. Series 8 rules are out.
Yeah, this is big news. This is probably one of the biggest pieces of news so far since last podcast.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Series 8 rules are out, and you can finally use restricted Pokemon. You can bring one restricted Pokemon. So basically, box art legendaries are here starting February 1st.
So would it be accurate to call this the final boss meta? Is that what we're calling this now?
We are affectionately calling this final boss meta.
Final boss meta. Spread the word. I'm actually pretty excited. How do you feel?
I'm excited. I don't think my favorite Pokemon is
Mewtwo.
Mewtwo. I don't think he's very viable, but I'm still gonna try to use him.
I think he's
on my
A.
team.
I think he's A tier personally.
yeah.
I don't think he's S, but I think he's A tier. Whereas the Hoenn legendaries, which we're actually going to talk about today because they are weather starters.
Yeah. So the list of Pokemon you can use now, obviously you can see them here on screen.
Yep.
Mewtwo, Lugia, Ho-Oh, Kyogre, Groudon, Rayquaza, Dialga, Palkia, Giratina, Reshiram, Zekrom, Kyurem, love that guy, Xerneas, Yveltal, Zygarde. You can use the Solgaleo and Lunala line, Necrozma, Zacian, Zamazenta, Eternatus, and Calyrex.
It's important to note that you can use Zacian Crowned
Yes.
in this upcoming.
So
this is going to be for the next 3 months on your Switch on ranked for singles and doubles. This is what we're talking about here. These are all good. So any teams, they're allowed to bring one. So starting February 1st, which is this coming Monday, if you guys jump on ranked and start seeing some of these, this is why.
Yeah, this is for singles as well.
Yep.
Ranked singles.
Anything on your Switch cartridge.
One thing to note, mythical Pokemon are still not allowed. So no Victini, no Mew, no Jirachi, Celebi. Pokemon of that nature are still not allowed, unfortunately.
Yep.
Because those can be pretty fun. No
Volcarona and Zarude.
Oh, Volcarona's mythical?
Or not Volcarona, Volcanion.
Volcanion, yeah.
I missed. Thank you for catching me.
Can't
Volcanion.
Can't use Volcarona? That's not fair. I already used him.
I misspoke.
Yeah, as far
That's
as
funny.
That's
Yeah, no, it'll be fun. It's not like it was back in Generation 7. I got to be careful not to say Series 7. What we're in right
they
now.
call it the Ultra Series.
Yeah,
It's the one where it's whatever, I believe.
They had 2
Yeah.
Ubers per team, 2 final bosses. We
Yeah.
only have 1. That's a little bit different. We haven't seen anything like that. What do you
Yeah.
think about that?
I want to say I like it, but I don't think it brings a lot of balance. I actually think that the 2 Uber meta is more balanced because you have
Keep going on that.
2 Pokemon of that nature
Mm-hmm.
to kind of handle each other. It's not very original because you're going to see a lot of the same stuff. But as far as balance goes, I don't think this is going to be the most balanced series.
Yep. We have 3 months of it.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because I think Series 7 is so well done and so
I do
balanced.
like Series 7 a lot. It's a lot of fun. We can use a lot of different teams.
So really quick before we move on to the main topic, what do you think are going to be some relevant threats? What are you looking forward to seeing? What are you not looking forward to seeing?
Well, in terms of big threats, pulling on my heartstrings, and this is not my bias as a Hoenn lover has nothing to do with it here. I honestly do think that both Kyogre and Groudon are going to be either A or S tier going into Series 8 because they have the Drought and Drizzle abilities respectively.
I don't think it's a reach to say that those Pokemon are going to be great in Series 8.
Even if they're not top tier in terms of win rates, I do think they're going to be top tier for sure in terms of usage.
Yep. As far as I think you're absolutely going to see a lot of Zacian.
That's a good call.
Plan on
like we
Zacian.
just talked about at the beginning of the show, he's very strong, and the rusted sword version, the rusted sword item, so the crowned version is not banned.
Yep. Calyrex, I think both forms are going to be very relevant.
Yep, Shadow and
mostly Shadow.
Shadow. Yeah.
And then as far as other things I want to note, I think weakness policy Lugia is absolutely going to be a thing. Keep your eye out for that. Do not bring Rayquaza. I don't think Rayquaza is relevant. Unfortunately,
in VGC and doubles.
I don't think it's relevant in.
And it's such a sad day because he's my favorite legendary. He's a big green dragon.
I think Xerneas. That's a good pick. If you manage to remove Zacian and Zamazenta from the game, Xerneas is going to be incredibly good.
How do you feel about Yveltal?
Yveltal is going to be very good. Sucker Punch for Calyrex is really important.
That's strong.
Just got to watch out for Wild Charge, Zacian, and Kyogre gets Thunder, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so those I think are going to be your top threats. There's other things.
I got one more happy pick if you don't mind.
Go for it, man.
The Solgaleo Necrozma fusion, the Black Lion.
The Duskmane.
Yep, the Duskmane. It's incredibly powerful. Psychic Steel. It's just, it gets good coverage, good damage. It's
Expect more.
It's a big threat. I
Expect
think that's going to be
weakness
S
policy
tier
on this too.
Yep.
I believe this is basically going to be the Series 8 Metagross.
I think so too. That's a really good call because Metagross now, more times than not, if you see it in VGC, it's going to have weakness policy because
it's so assault vest.
It's so easy to live a hit and proc the policy.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good
Even
call for the
against
cat.
Dynamax Pokemon, but
Yep.
then you just have Protect.
Mufasa himself.
Yeah. Yeah, so those are our initial thoughts on Series 8. Expect us to do a lot more Series 8 stuff.
Definitely a lot of we're
might be
going to
like
putting
a-
some battle testing videos on our showdown when we get
Yes.
our teams.
Yep.
We're still building our teams in terms of getting ready with everybody in our group, in our game group locally.
Yep.
With what they want to run, so we can start doing some test games before next week.
Yep. So I think as far as news goes, that's what we have. That was a good amount of news, but
Yeah,
good conversation there.
It was a big couple of weeks, but it's important to touch on these things so people can keep updated.
Yep. So I think we are going to take a short break, and then we are going to move on to the topic of the day, and we will have class in session very shortly. All right, guys. See you in a second.
What's up, everybody? Today's lesson is all about weather teams. We're going to talk about one of the most kind of classic and prominent ways to kind of build a team or structure your teams in competitive Pokemon. Ever since Gen 5, when they, back then it wasn't hidden abilities, they were called Dream World abilities.
Yeah,
Remember
Dream
that?
World, yeah.
But ever since then, when they revealed all of these hidden abilities now for these new weather starters, they've given a whole new agency to weather poke. So obviously back in 5th gen, that was when there was no limit. So you started the weather and it stayed on forever until you turned it off.
Yeah, that was fun. that was fun.
That was something, wasn't it?
That was a good
obviously
time.
in Gen 6 they nerfed it, so it was only 5 turns. And but yeah, so today we're gonna kind of go through all 4 weathers. We've got some team ideas.
Yep.
Just so you can kind of get an idea of like what that team might look like on paper, so you can kind of visually see what the pokes would look like as a team. We are going to talk about the items. We're going to talk about the different abilities that start each weather, as well as the moves itself, and then all of the abilities and some of the prominent pokes that get them that would benefit in the weather.
Yep. Weather team building is pretty easy. It's a great team building. It's a good way to go when you're beginning because the pieces just kind of like almost fall into place like so easily.
Yeah, it's pretty not self-explanatory, but it's sort of like, okay, if you're in the weather, you have a finite amount of resources of Pokemon with other abilities that can benefit from that weather.
Yeah.
And it's a good place to start.
Yeah. You want to rattle off what the 4 weathers are?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have Rain, which is for water. It's a water type move, water type weather. We have Sand, which is for rock. We have Sun, which is fire, and we have Hail for ice.
All right. And we're going to go over those with you right now.
Alrighty, so obviously here this is a, as you can see, there's no team ID because this team's technically not legal yet. This is my sort of rough draft practice idea for what we were talking about earlier for Series 8 starting on Monday.
Yeah.
So this is my Rain team built around Kyogre. Obviously, so this is for VGC doubles. So obviously weather is prominent in both singles, doubles, whatever.
Yep.
It's good anywhere. The benefit of doubles is that you don't have to switch out to another poke to benefit from the weather. You can just have
They're just there.
one of each.
Yep.
So obviously, as you see on Kyogre, his ability is called Drizzle. That's the ability that automatically starts the rain when the Pokemon switches into battle, or if the Pokemon ability is gained in battle. So, what's that thing called? Neutralizing gas, if that is killed or turned off or removed from ability like Mummy or Skill Swap or whatever. As soon as Drizzle is activated, the rain starts.
Yeah.
So, rain gives us a couple of benefits. This is my favorite weather. So there's actually quite a few benefits to this one.
Every time we build a team, Justin's like, I got a team. I want you to battle.
I got a team.
It doesn't matter like what tier it is.
Doesn't
I'm like,
matter
you know
what
what?
tier.
Okay, yeah, sounds fun. It's always a rain team. It's
it's
always
so
got
fun.
Ludicolo on.
Ludicolo is
I'm like, oh,
awesome. Where is he back here?
I was like, you
There
wouldn't
he is.
possibly bring another rain team.
You got
What do
to.
Yeah, sure enough, it's a rain team. Anyway, talk all about it.
So, rain has some of the most benefits out of all the weathers, and it's usually a very offensive weather.
Yeah.
You don't see a whole lot of stall rain,
No.
unless it's like something like a Ferrothorn or like I have here a Bronzong. Usually steel types are really good in rain. So what it does is that it weakens the power of fire type moves by 50%.
50%.
Which is a big deal because then it makes your steel types even bulkier. And
Yep.
obviously steel types that are part grass like Ferrothorn loves to sit in the rain and
Yep.
just take flamethrowers. It also increases the accuracy of both thunder and hurricane to 100% while it's raining.
Yeah, it actually just removes the accuracy check altogether. So just because they've been boosted to 100, like if you're up against a Pokemon that has increased its evasion, it doesn't matter. Like you can go up against a minimized Chansey or whatever, you'll still hit. It removes the check altogether.
Exactly. That's a good distinction.
Yeah, yeah.
Weather Ball turns to water, and obviously I'm sort of just reading off of my Zapdos here with those last three. Thunder, Hurricane, Weather Ball is a very strong Zapdos in the rain.
Yep.
The Stab Hurricane, Stab Thunder, it's just incredible power. Also, it boosts the power of water type moves while it's raining. How much does the boost give?
50%.
Is that the same in most weathers? Are we going to see that type of boost, or is that kind of unique a little?
It's sort of unique.
Yeah.
It's
Not every weather boosts its own type.
Yeah, you'll see it again in one more weather we'll talk about.
Yep. So what else do we get? Okay, so there's a couple of abilities that benefit from having the rain up. So as you can see on screen, I have two right here. It's called Swift Swim. Now, all the weathers have at least one ability like this. It's the speed boost. It's essentially the ability or like the move agility, where it's +2 to your speed stat. That's essentially what you get for free as an ability. Now, for rain, ours is called Swift Swim. Any Pokemon that gets this automatically doubles its speed while it's raining.
Yes.
So you just instantly get the buff. It doesn't have to activate. It's not a proc you have to do. It's just there passively. So obviously you can see that both on Ludicolo and on Seismitoad. And so what they're going to come in and they're going to be really good sweepers because of that really good speed stat. So you're going to have really good speed control just for existing.
Yep.
So you could start the game off, for just as an example, with Kyogre, Ludicolo. And now your Ludicolo is going to outspeed essentially everything on the field because it's raining.
Yep. They're really good users of it. Another couple that I think are really good are Kingdra and Barraskewda.
Oh, yeah, those are really... Barraskewda's really good right now in OU. We see a lot of them.
Yeah, a lot of the flip turning, and especially on rain teams, that flip turn hurts a lot.
A lot, because you get the water damage boost.
They're usually choice banned, so it's choice banded. You already have the Swift Swim.
Yep.
And it's stab.
The rain
and
boost.
you get rain boost.
It's a lot of damage.
It's like a 50 to 60% turn, like on physically defensive Pokemon. It's like
Absolutely.
50 to 60% flip turn.
Yep.
So.
There's also other abilities like Hydration, which obviously heals the status if it's raining at the end of the turn. So it's at the end of the turn when it says it's raining, or like for other weathers we'll talk about later when you might get buffeted by the hail or sandstorm. That's when this activation happens. So if you're sleeping or if you're burned, the rain will come down. You'll see a little star burst come up, and your ability will activate, and hydration will proc, and it will cure the status at the end of that turn.
Yep.
There's also Rain Dish, which is pretty nice. Ludicolo also gets that, which at the end of the turn, when the rain falls, you'll get the 1/6 HP healing.
I think it's 1/16.
Or 1/16, excuse me. I misspoke.
Yeah.
The healing. So it's essentially like
a leftover.
Like a built-in leftovers or something.
Yep, and then a lot of people will pair that with leftovers, so you get one
or leech seed.
Or leech seed.
Yep, so you just get a lot of healing back.
Yep.
That's really nice. And then there's also other things like dry skin, which every time at the end of the turn when the rain comes down, you're actually going to heal an 1/8 of your HP during dry skin. You're actually going to get a nice little boost of healing there. And then we also have
It's kind of it for abilities.
Oh, for abilities, yeah, that was it. Sorry, no. You had one more. It's not necessarily abilities, but moves. In the rain, there's a couple of moves that accuracies get adjusted in a negative. You want to talk about those? You have a couple here. Whether the accuracy or the power.
The power, relatively. Yeah. So in the rain, moves like Moonlight, Synthesis, and Morning Sun only heal a third instead of a half.
Yep.
Those are prominent on things like Umbreon and Cresselia.
Yep.
And things like that. Espeon gets Morning Sun.
Yes, anything that revolves, that's like a light-based sort of healing move. Yep. Light's not an element or a type in Pokemon, but Moonlight, Synthesis, they all use the sun. And obviously if it's raining, you can't see the sun.
Keep that in mind if you have one of those moves and you're going up against a rain team.
Yep.
Rain cores. You want to talk about some rain cores?
Yeah, so obviously rain cores here, what he means there is like who's going to be the main core of your team, which is who's going to have the drizzle ability. You can have either, like I have here, Kyogre, and then there's a couple others that are noteworthy for either VGC or singles, respectively. You could have Pelipper, which I'm a big fan of, another Hoenn rep, flying water type. It's pretty decently bulky on the physical side. It gets things like Tailwind, Stab Hurricane, Stab Scald, which gets buffed in the rain. It actually can do a decent amount of damage. It can U-turn, knock off. It's got some decent utility there. And then obviously from second gen, Politoed is also another really good drizzler. You see a lot of those on VGC teams.
Yep. Those he's got a really nice utility niche.
Yeah, he does. He's got Helping Hand,
Icy Wind,
which is really nice, and Perish Song.
Encore
is a good one.
Can encore people into protecting.
And he's a lot bulkier, especially on that special side, and he doesn't have the flying type, so it's a little bit of a different bulk. And but yeah, he's very bulky for VGC teams. A couple of years ago, back in like Gen 5 and 6, we used to see a lot of Specs Politoed, but we haven't seen a lot of those in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I'm still running Specs Politoed, but that's because
you just haven't changed it.
I haven't made. I just have. When I like to run a more defensive rain setter, I like Pelipper so much better.
Yeah. Yep. And it's just a season to taste type of thing. But those are the three premier drizzle pokes.
Yeah. So as far as like cores, cores that I like Politoed, Kingdra, Zapdos. That's a pretty offensive core. Politoed is your gadget Pokemon, but then obviously like a fully offensive Kingdra and a fully offensive Zapdos. They apply a lot of pressure.
Yep.
And then another like a defensive core. I like Pelipper. Thunderous T with Volt Absorb to switch into those 4 times weak Thunderbolts for Pelipper, and then Ferrothorn because the Steel Grass you take a little less from fire. So nice defensive rain core if you decide you want to go that route.
Yep, and obviously here I have something very similar to with exactly what you're talking about. Instead of Ferrothorn, I've got the Bronzong, similar niche. I have the Zapdos, and again, instead of the Kingdra, I do have 2 different variants on Swift Swimmers here, being both the Seismitoad or the Ludicolo. Yep. They have a little bit different variants on their sets here. Obviously, Ludicolo with the Fake Out 3 attacks. It's not actually that great what I've noticed in Dynamax formats. Ludicolo is actually better just as a just keeping him small. Sometimes. And then the Seismitoad's actually one of my favorite niche kind of picks. It's tippity top max speed timid. And then I've got the Substitute. And what this is supposed to do in the rain, so with the Swift Swim and in the rain, he's going to be going first against basically everything. Even if they get a Tailwind up, I'm probably going to be going first against a lot of matchups.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use the Substitute to absorb enemy Dynamax turns. Because if I lead with Kyogre, Seismitoad, somebody might think, okay, they're going to use the Kyogre to set up the rain, and they might Dynamax the Seismitoad, maybe Max Ooze or Max Geyser really strong.
Yep.
And that's going to be their big threat. I'm not going to Dynamax him. I'm just going to waste your time, let you Dynamax. You're going to hit my Substitute. I'm only going to take a chip of damage from the sub every turn.
Yep.
First, then you Dynamax attack into me, smash into me, and I waste your turns like that, and then I have Ludicolo or Zapdos or something to Dynamax in my team in the back. Or I could, again, because Kyogre is so amazing, he's going to be so strong in the Dynamax format himself.
Yeah, for sure. Expect to see a lot of Kyogre.
Yep. Yeah, that's Rain. Again, this is my favorite way to run. Ludicolo, again, one of my favorite pokes of all time. You'll hear us talk about him on the podcast and on our YouTube channel. If you hear us say the Pokemon nickname Poncho, that's why. It's for about basically as long as we've been playing, you've had to deal with Ludicolo in the rain.
I'm sick of that guy.
So, a lot of fun.
So moving on to Sandstorm.
Absolutely.
As a guy who started in Gen 4, Sandstorm was really like...
premier.
Was the premier because you had Sand starters and you didn't have those in Gen 4?
Correct.
We had T-Tar and Hippowdon. Those were bona fide OU Pokemon, and since I started in Gen 4, he started competitive in Gen 4 as well. That was a premier format. That's a format that I have liked to use a lot. I have not made a Gen 8 Sand team, but I feel like that's more because they're just so easy to make, a kind of a plug-and-play thing. Sandstorm teams are a lot more defensive by nature if you want to play that kind of style. They can be started with the move Sandstorm. They can be started with Max Rockfall in a Dynamax format. And Sandstorms can be started with Sandstream ability Pokemon. Or Sand Spit, which is exclusive.
Brand new.
Yeah, which is brand new and exclusive to Sandaconda. As far as Sandstream starters, you have Tyranitar, Hippowdon, and Gigalith, which you saw in Justin's PC3 team.
Really, really useful.
It gives Rock-type Pokemon a 50% special defense boost. At the end of the turn, the Sandstorm will chip 1/16 of Pokemon who are not Rock, Steel, Ground, or have the ability Magic Guard, Overcoat, Sand Force, Sand Rush, Sand Veil, or if they're holding the safety goggles.
That's really important.
That's a lot of stuff. Yeah, it is important.
It is an important distinction that I want to touch on real quick, and you actually have it on the screen. One of my favorite pokes in existence is Mandibuzz.
Yeah.
Mandibuzz is an incredibly bulky Pokemon with a lot of utility and a good typing. But one of the things that makes Mandibuzz so useful is the Overcoat, in my opinion, the Overcoat ability. Because you can put him on Sand or Hail teams, and you're not risking... you're not buffing the enemy Ice or Rock types that he's weak to.
Yeah.
And B, he's not taking the chip damage
at
the end of the turn because of Overcoat. Even though he's not... ground, steel, or rock, which is traditionally how you'd avoid the Sandstorm chip, which is also something I'd like to talk about. It's not very common, but Pokemon that get the sand, we call them like the Sandstorm type abilities, whether it be, like he said, Sandveil, Sandrush. If you're one of those Poke that gets those abilities that is not ground, rock, or steel, it still just bypasses. You don't get the buffet. Something that you might be thinking, well, who gets this? It seems pretty niche. He's not necessarily in the game right now, but in the national decks out of Hoenn is the Cactus Cacturn. He does? He gets Sand Veil. As an ability.
I was going to say Sand Rush Cacturn?
No.
Sign me up!
He gets Sand Veil as an option. So that's just an example there of, he's not one of those three types, but he still doesn't get chipped if you have that ability.
Yeah. Another thing to note, just like Rain, if you've got Moonlight Synthesis or Morning Sun, you only heal
Sand
1/3.
Rush, that'd be great.
Yeah,
sorry for the
Sand Rush
sidetrack.
Cactus? Dude.
I miss
Make it happen.
I miss
Game Freak.
Cacturn, man. He gets Nasty Plot, Swords Dance.
Oh, make it happen, dude. Dude, the Cacturn meta, dude. Sign me up.
Bring me in there, man. It's day one. All right.
So back to abilities. So like Justin just alluded to, it activates Hail activates Sand Rush. The most relevant Sand Rush Pokemon I would say are
the one on screen.
Yeah, Excadrill right here, and then Draco Vish and Draco Zolt. That's a speed doubling ability, just like Swift Swim, and you do not get.
So that's
hit
the
by.
rock. That's the Sandstorm version of my Swift Swim on Poncho.
And like Dracovish and Arctozolt, they are not any of those types, but they don't get hit by the Sandstorm chip because they have these abilities.
That's another perfect example of somebody that's in the game relevant.
Yeah,
and that's brand new. You only get those if you get your ability patch.
Yeah,
which is a brand new item that allows you to take a Pokemon and then give it its hidden ability.
Super expensive, by the way.
Super expensive, but it's worth it. I did that on my What's the other? Not the Sand Rush. I'm doing the Slush Rush version.
Slush Rush, Arctazol.
Arctazol. Yep.
Arctazol.
All of the fossils now have one of those.
Another ability it activates is Sand Force. Is this is an attack boost?
Yes.
In the sand.
A damage buff to ground, steel, and rock moves.
Yep. And the most relevant ones I would say is Excadrill again, and then Gigalith. You didn't? No, you had Sandstream on yours. Okay. But those are probably the most relevant users of Sand Force.
You could also do Hippo. There's also Galarian or regular Dugtrio.
Yes.
That could use it as well, especially
Alolan Dugtrio.
Or Alolan Dugtrio. What did I say?
The hair metal.
I said Galarian. Alolan. Sorry, different regions. But yeah, the different Dugtrio definitely get that, which I think can be useful, especially because they're Arena Trap and Tangled Hair, respectively. Their abilities are banned at the moment on Smogon. So if you are looking for Sand Force, I think it actually can be one of those niche.
Yeah, he's so fast.
Yep. Yep.
And then the last ability that it activates is Sand Veil. This is actually really not relevant. I don't even know if it's allowed on Showdown.
I think it's illegal because it breaks evasion clause on Showdown, but I'm not. I don't think you're like banned from bringing it. As an ability, you're just banned from doubling up with things like
double team
or bright powder as an item.
The only relevant Pokemon really that gets this is Garchomp, and you wouldn't run Sandveil anyway. You would run Rough Skin.
Agreed.
So Sandveil's not really one to really look out for.
But in doubles,
Sandveil's,
because there's no evasion clause, you can like he was saying, there's minimized Chansey, which is or Blissey, depending on what people want to run.
But it's
a big deal.
It's a real thing.
It's a real big deal. We actually just saw somebody get walled not even a week ago.
Yeah.
So I'm actually one of the things I'm working on for Series 8 Sand Team is going to have Bright Powder Sandveil Garchomp. So it definitely can work.
So as far as cores go, I have the offensive core on here. I like T-Tar, Excadrill, and Dracovish. Obviously, Dracovish.
Yeah.
This is a singles team, by the way.
Really strong.
Dracovish I don't have on here. I kind of subbed him for... I didn't have a lot of offense. I kind of subbed him for Aegislash because I like this. This is kind of like a stally defensive.
Yeah.
The main offense here is...
You want to maximize some of the, getting buffeted at the end of the turn.
Yeah,
so that's why I'm
running King's Shields, Aegislash, because it lowers its opponent's defense. They get hit by a Sandstorm and stuff like that.
I see you got 2 toxic pokes.
Yep, so like I said, this is a very defensive...
Two different protects on here.
Yep, this is a very defensive, stally type of team.
And then but at least you do, you have a lot of tanks, a lot of stalls, a lot of just, you know what I mean, you're going to get whittled down over time, but then you do have that cleanup power of whether the Aegislash with Shadow Sneak, you do have the T-Tar with Weakness Policy, which is really strong if he gets set up.
Super strong.
And then obviously at any point in time, if the sand is up, you just bring in the Excadrill. And whether or not you have the Swords Dance or not, he's got a base, I believe it's 130 or 135.
135, I think.
Really Are you running Adamant with Life Orb?
Yeah.
Or
I'm running Adamant. No, I'm running Adamant. I believe this is Adamant with a Life Orb and Swords Dance.
So if he gets that off, if potential, like I said, VGC or depending on your local meta, Dynamax formats. I mean, he's just in with those stab steel spikes and stab max quakes to be able to boost both defenses. Wow, that's incredible. That's an incredible combination.
Last Pokemon I want to mention for Sandstorm teams is Latias. When you look at this team, you see 1, 2, 3 ground weaknesses, a grass weakness, a fighting weakness, and an electric weakness. Latias defensively resists all of those because of Levitate and her natural typing.
Yep. Good call.
And then as far as
she's got a lot of good utility.
Mandibuzz is weak to ice, but this is especially defensive. Sides with Toad, so you can switch in on that. That's one other Pokemon I think that you should keep an eye out for in Sandstorms.
I really like it.
Yeah, that's all I got to say about
Sand was a lot of fun. I definitely agree with your point. This is definitely the most by far the most defensive, both in playstyle and what pokes you happen to see on the teams. Like my team was almost all tanks for the
look
for
how
the
many
PC3.
fatties I got on this team.
Yep, they're just big. You just bring big walls and you just kind of let the sand help you beat the team for you.
Yep. So the next weather I want to talk about is hail. Hail is kind of like I want to say it's like a utility, but it's not. Hail is kind of weird.
It's sort of the black sheep of the family.
Yeah, dude, it really is. So hail can be started with the move hail, with max hailstorm, or with a snow warning Pokemon. Those Pokemon being Alolan Ninetales, Vanillux, Abomasnow, and Aurorus.
Okay, so we've seen Drizzle,
Yep.
Sandstream,
Yep.
and now we have
Snow
Warning.
Yep. As far as like the main effects for Blizzard, the same thing. It chips 1/16 of your HP just at the end of the turn if you're not an ice type. So it's kind of similar to, well, it's actually like almost the same thing as Sandstorm.
But instead of having such a plethora, it's only ice.
Yeah. Blizzard's accuracy check is totally removed, which is kind of nice in doubles. Because
So that's kind of
it's
like rain.
It's a spread move.
Yep.
Blizzard hits both of your opponents, not your partner, both your opponents, with no accuracy check. So that's kind of nice. You could fish for freezes that way.
Which is we've definitely had our poke freeze to Blizzards.
Yeah. Oh, and also Magic Guard, Overcoat, and the safety goggles. If you have those abilities or that item, you do not take Hail Chip. Same thing as if you have Slush Rush, Ice Body, and Snow Cloak.
Yep.
You won't take Ice Chip.
You want to talk about what those are?
Yeah. For Slush Rush, it's the same thing as Swift Swim and Sand Rush.
Yep. This is the ice speed one.
Yep. It doubles the speed, and it's really relevant on Arctivish, Arctozolt,
that's a good one.
and Alolan Sandslash. Those are like
Those
the
are the
best.
big ones.
Yeah, those
Yep.
are like the best Slush Rush users.
Honorable mention out to the Polar Bear. He got a buff this gen to 130 attack, but
Yeah.
he still doesn't see any love. But
Beartic.
Beartic. If anybody wants to see some Beartic videos, leave a like on this video on YouTube and leave it down in the comments below.
Yeah, like the video, guys. It doesn't cost you anything. Then there's Ice Body, which is very similar to Rain Dish. You will heal a little bit after the turn. That's really relevant on things like Avalugg, Glaceon, and the biggest one being Walrein.
So, we've got... So, Dry Skin actually kind of works like that, too, for rain. But now we have the Ice Body, and then the... is there one for Hail that heals?
For Hail, not for Sand.
Or for Sand, excuse me? Is
we
there
don't
one for
have
Sand?
one. Not for Sand.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I know. That'd be kind of broken.
So we have Ice Body, though. That's pretty nice. Do you have any Ice Body pokes that you like to use?
I have Avalugg.
No?
Oh, Glaceon, I think, is a really good
You give
one.
me that look. You said Avalugg, but you kind of look like you just ate a lemon. Are you not really sold on the Avalugg?
No, Avalugg is so much better with Sturdy.
Sturdy
and heavy-duty boots, Avalugg is way better.
Really
if you want to run Ice Body, Walrein is the premier Ice Body Pokemon. And then I would say Glaceon.
Glaceon. You
I
have to
really
set up
like-
the own Hail with the move Hail.
Yeah, I
Maybe
really like
spread some
substitute.
yawns.
I really like substitute Glaceon.
That'd be good, too.
With Ice Body. And then the last one is Snow Cloak. This works the same way as Sand Veil. You don't see this one ever.
Basically.
But the most relevant Pokemon, if you're going to see them, would be Cantonians, a regular Articuno, and Alolan Sandslash once again. But
maybe Mamoswine.
Yeah, maybe Mamoswine.
It just depends on if they're... Well, you the Thick Fat's nice. The Oblivious is nice because then you can't be...
Can't be intimidated.
With Oblivious.
Yeah.
So you're probably not going to see it too much.
Yeah. The biggest thing with Hail, the main reason you run Hail is because it allows the use of Aurora Veil. If the Hail is up, you can use the move Aurora Veil, which gives you a Reflect and a Light Screen.
Both.
All in one turn.
Yep.
And that can last up to 8 turns if you're holding the Light Clay. So
yeah, and it does. Yes, it does benefit from Light Clay for both.
Yep.
It's really, really strong.
If you are using, and all of these Hail starters that we listed earlier, they all get Aurora Veil.
They all get Aurora Veil.
So that's like the main reason you would use it. The last time I built a Hail team, it literally started with, I'm going to use Vanillux and set up an Aurora Veil.
And then what?
And then I put regular Ninetales on my team to start the Sun for Charizard. So my Hail team was literally just...
It wasn't even Hail.
It wasn't Hail. It was just to start the
It
Aurora
was
Veil.
just for Veil.
Yeah. But if you wanted to run like a fully blown Hail team, as far as cores go, Alolan Ninetales, Arctozolt, and a pick that I don't think anyone needs to sleep on is Heatran. I think Heatran needs to be a part of every single Hail team because of Flash Fire.
Yep.
I have a Choice Scarf Flash Fire one on the screen. He's
got such a good move coverage, especially with dual stab, steel and fire.
Yeah.
Then he's got things like Earth Power that can't be slept on. He's got insane coverage.
Yeah, because he comes in on steel moves, takes no damage, and can remove steel types with Magnetstorm.
Yep.
And he comes in for free on fire types because of his because of Flash Fire, and then he can handle them with Earth Power. So
and with either, depending on the move set, depending on the items, like obviously you also have options depending on if you're VGC or whatever. Like you have Heatran right here with a Choice Scarf.
Yeah.
You can also go with either Air Balloon for a free switch in or a Shuka Berry to be able to live that ground move. Like you mentioned, you saw a couple of those in PC3 tournament.
Yep.
With the Shuka Berry Dynamax format.
Unfortunately, I saw some of those.
Yeah, Heatran's a big problem.
Yep. So you absolutely need Heatran. Another core I really like is a defensive core. Vanillux, he's kind of a little bulkier, and he doesn't have so many like 4 times weaknesses like the other starters. Mandibuzz with Overcoat, as you can see, it ended up on my Sandstorm and my Hail team. And then Reuniclus with Magic Guard.
That's a good pick.
You do 4 attacks plus the Assault Vest. He can or Regenerator. Well, you can run Magic Guard. I would say Magic Guard and Recover. Otherwise, you can run Regenerator on him, but you
definitely have options for recovery.
Yeah,
with him, and he's just such a bulky poke, and he has insanely good coverage. That's a good option.
So that's my more like defensive core.
Yep.
As far as this team goes, right here, I've got Ninetales as the starter because she's very fast. The main offense here is Slush Rush, Assault Vest, Sand Slash. He also has Rapid Spin, so that utility is really nice. Heatran, because like I said, he's kind of a staple on every team. I got Frostlass here because I really like this choice set. Tricking onto defensive Pokemon, your choice... I got Choice Band. Your Choice Band or Choice Scarf is very nice and can cripple defensive Pokemon.
Very big deal.
How many times have I tricked a Choice Scarf onto something like a Claydol?
Yeah, and it really makes a difference because now rarely does the speed ever come into a play, but the locking you in always does.
Yep. And then I've got Regenerator, physically defensive Slowbro here to come in on fighting type, steel type, and fire type moves.
Yep.
Because of his typing and natural bulk. And then I rounded out the team with the same Mandibuzz you had earlier. This Toxic Knockoff.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
The Toxic Knockoff's really nice. You can switch this for Foul Play. You can put Defog on here, but I have Rapid Spin, so I thought Whirlwind was better.
Whirlwind would be real nice.
I don't have any hazards really on this team.
He can also Tailwind also.
Yeah, he can Tailwind. He does everything.
Yeah, he does everything. He's a great bird.
As far as Hail goes, I think that's really all I got to say about it. You want to start us off on Sun?
Yeah, so Sun teams are probably what I would call the premier VGC weather right now. They're probably the #1 spot in terms of both usage and win rates.
Yeah.
You can start it either with the ability Drought. You can start it with Sunny Day, or you can start it with Dynamaxing and using the move Max Flare. I actually like Sun teams a lot. They're really fun. I think Sun is the most offensive. You obviously can be defensive just based on what pokes you bring, but if you're kind of leaning into what the weather does well, Rain, because it naturally gives the boost to... like steel types being cutting the damage of fire types, inherently making steel types bulkier. I think it can lead to some stall practices, like we showed with the Bronzong or with the Ferrothorn.
Yeah.
But Sun, it cuts down the moves of the damage of water moves in the same fashion on the other end of it.
It's like the reverse of Rain.
Yep. But I don't know if there's necessarily too many rock or ground types that really want to sit there and get way bulkier in the Sun because of it. Do you know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
not that same type of trade-off. It's not equivalent in that respect.
Not really, except for maybe.
I mean, I guess Groudon himself, he'll be able to live water moves better. But
Yeah. When we talk about cores, I'll talk about Pokemon like that. Maybe one of
Yeah.
the few.
So the big thing of note here, obviously, first we want to talk about the ability Drought. There's 3 Pokemon right now fully evolved in the game that get the Drought ability. One of them is on screen right now, Hoenn Rep himself, the turtle.
Yep.
Torkoal. We also have Kanto Rep, Kanto Ninetales, so the Firefox.
Good doggo.
And then we have the other Hoenn box art legendary, which is Groudon, which I just mentioned a few minutes ago. So 2 of them being fire types and 1 ground type. Now, obviously, Groudon not being fire, but getting essentially the fire weather is kind of interesting because that gives you a unique building option, whereas before we only have, now they're only pure fire, so there's no times 4 weaknesses, but having to put a fire starter as your a fire poke as your sun starter can be sometimes some kind of a crux, because maybe somebody just has an earthquake or a stone edge and now I can hit 2 or 3 of your pokes. So that might be kind of interesting. So what it does, obviously, like the rain, the 2 offensive types, this boosts the damage of fire type moves while cutting water. Like he said, it's the reversed opposites. This also, at the end of the turn, subsequently how dry skin in the rain, you'll get healed. In the sun, you're actually going to take damage as though you have like a life orb attached to you or something. You're going to take chip damage, a considerable amount. I believe it's an 1/8.
Yeah.
At the end of your turn, just for being in the sun. It also makes you weak to fire type moves, but that's the ability Dry Skin. You can use here, like you see on screen, we've got Solar Power Charizard. That is not a very common ability. We also see it on Heliolisk, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it's a damage. It's basically, well, it literally, for the numbers, statistically, it is a life orb as an ability if you're in the sun.
Yeah.
So instead of how life orb works is once I touch you and I deal damage, I take the chip.
Yeah.
And that damage was 30% boosted. Solar Power, all of my damage is 30% boosted, but every turn at the end of the turn when it says the sun is shining bright, I take the chip regardless of whether or not I hit you. So if you protect
just
or
being out
substitute,
there.
just by being out there, you're losing life. So it's a catch-22. It is a little high risk, high reward, but it does make Charizard quite a potent threat, and especially now, well, like yours with Life Orb and Solar Power, you've got a 60% boost.
Yeah.
Plus the sun boost if you're firing off a fire-type flamethrower.
Yep.
Very strong. As you can see here, we have Chlorophyll. Now, we mentioned at the top of the session that every weather, there's one unique commonality between all 4 weathers, and that's the speed ability. Now, we've talked about Swift Swim, Sand Rush, Slush Rush. Now, this is Chlorophyll. This is the sun speed control. But this is where it gets a little tricky. Chlorophyll is not, even though it's a fire type, in terms of boosting the damage, weather, Chlorophyll, because it involves on the sun, it happens on grass type Pokemon. Makes sense narratively. But it's kind of difficult sometimes to place these grass types into a sun team, because now if the enemy has an enemy, if the opponent has any sort of fire types, they're going to be boosted and they're just going to roast you in one turn.
Yeah. You kind of run that risk with rain when you run against electric types, like maybe with thunder.
Yep.
That's more rare, but I mean it's not as uncommon to see a fire type Pokemon when you're going up.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Just thrown on a team.
Yeah.
So it's really important to remember that when you're using Chlorophyll pokes, it's just a type difference there. But what it does is it'll double your speed in the sun, and it's primarily on grass types. But what we have here is the premier, if there ever existed, is Venusaur.
Yeah.
Both in singles, he was OU for a while before the DLC started to drop in. He was doing really well.
Pokemon Home meta. He was doing real well in the spring of 2020. He was doing pretty decent throughout the tiers over the summer, but after Crown, he did drop a little bit in singles usage. But in doubles, I think he's still top 10 or top 20 on Pikalytics for VGC usage. I think so, yeah.
Torkoal Venusaur is like Torkoal Venusaur Charizard. If there was ever a Premier Sun core, that's it.
Yeah.
Like,
Especially in doubles.
Especially in doubles. You're going to see, if you see a Sun team, you're probably going to see those 3 pokes.
Yeah, I would say.
Because they just work so well together. You could lead off Torkoal Charizard. Charizard has a very nice natural speed tier. And then he also has Stab Air Slash.
Yeah.
Or Stab, which turns into Stab Air Stream.
Yep.
And then you could also lead, subsequently, Torkoal Venusaur. And he's just starts, like we said, with all the other weathers, with double the speed turn 1.
Yeah.
So you could Dynamax or whatever, and you're just going really fast, and you're going to smash people with it. And you have a Max Ooze Stab option.
Yeah, to boost your attack.
And then
your special
with
attack.
Weather Ball, it becomes Weather Ball Fire.
Yep.
Or Max Flare. So again,
the coverage is really nice.
Really good coverage, really bulky with the Assault Vest. It's just a really strong poke. Obviously, Venusaur gets other options like Sleep Powder, and so Assault Vest isn't necessary for it to work. But the Chlorophyll is kind of the crux of the set.
Yeah, yeah.
So one of the small little niche benefits that I really like, especially after talking about getting frozen in the Players' Cup, you cannot be frozen if the sun is up. It just can't happen at all, regardless of if somebody is trying to roll for it or if they keep cooking blizzards. Can't happen.
Dude, even when I'm in like the sun and I get hit like with an ice beam,
Yep.
I always just like in the back of my mind, I was like, oh man, he's gonna freeze me.
Yep.
I'm just like so used to like the terrible things.
It's so
happening.
scary.
And I'm like, oh, it can't happen.
Yep. So there's actually some unique. Sun is a little bit unique, I think, in the fact that it has kind of a diverse.
It seems to have more field, like more effects.
Tools, maybe.
Yeah, like seems to have more like minor effects than any other one.
So Solar Beam, and then one of the newer moves, Solar Blade, which is a physical version.
Yeah.
Both grass type. Normally, they like Meteor Beam. They would have to charge, and then they'll shoot next turn and do the damage. So it's a 2-turn move. If the sun's up, it's instant. You charge and you shoot.
Super strong.
Really strong. I've been taken out turn 1 by what I thought was going to be Fake Out, but ended up being a Choice Banded Solar Blade from Rillaboom in doubles.
Ooh.
Very powerful.
That's pretty tight.
That's really good.
I kind of like that.
The move Growth becomes 2 stages for physical and special attack instead of 1. So very powerful. Instead of +1 to both, you get +2. So it's like a Nasty Plot Swords Dance built into 1.
Venusaur gets this move.
Venusaur gets Growth. It's very powerful. And then, like we mentioned, in the rain, where all the light, air quotes, light type healing moves, Moonlight, Synthesis, Morning Sun, they all get halved in the rain. They get extra healing in the sun.
2/3. Yep. 2/3 of your HP restored. So now we finally are like, we've been dogging on these recovery moves this whole time, but now we get to the point where
this
they're
is the
good.
only weather where they're good.
Yeah.
Every other weather, they're reduced healing.
Yep.
Or if there's no weather at all, then they're just neutral. So no weather or sun is beneficially where you want to use these. And then Hurricane and Thunder are dropped from 70 to 50 accuracy in the sun.
Don't use those in the sun, guys.
Do not try to click those in the sun. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Unless you're a baller.
Yeah. Some other notable chlorophyll users. One near and dear to my heart. He's super squishy, but he's a Hoenn rep. Is Shift Tree. I think low tiers he's actually kind of secret tech. And then Vileplume. We already know about that. He was doing work in PU as a defensive poke. Now he's up in NU. But I do think I believe RU Drought is legal right now. But yeah, you can definitely make Vileplume sort of like a mini Venusaur.
Yeah. Vileplume is doing Kanto proud right now.
Yep, definitely doing some work here. And then another ability that I want to talk about, it's pretty niche, but it's kind of like Rain here, how they're mirrors. They have Hydration in Rain. We have Leaf Guard over here. Now, one of my premier favorite pokes of all time that's still in the National Dex, knock on wood that we get some, whenever we get either the next round of DLC or the Gen 4 remakes, is Meganium. So Leaf Guard, right now it's on pokes like Leafeon or Zarude. If anybody ever did the monkey sign up thing,
email. I did it and I did not get my Zarude.
Yeah, Game Freak. We're looking for Zarude here. If you want to
Game
send
Freak.
us.
Game Freak.
It worked for me.
Please send me a code for Zarude. I would really like to use
I
him.
need him, monkey.
Thank you.
Yeah, Leafeon gets it right now. What it does is, at the end of the turn when the sun shines, it'll heal status just like the hydration works.
Yeah. Which is honestly kind of useless on Zarude because he gets jungle healing, which ruins his status. Anyway, sorry about that, Game Freak. I still want a Zarude.
I still want one.
Yeah, solar power.
Yeah, so, and then obviously we talked about solar
power.
power. Heliolisk and Charizard are the premier solar power users, along with buffing the fire type moves. So the common cores you're going to see, as we talked about, Torkoal, Venusaur, Charizard, it literally doesn't get more common.
Yeah.
I think not only of a sun core, but of a weather. Like, we've been playing a lot of VGC basically all summer, and we've seen so many Torkoal, Venusaur, Charizards.
I ran it for PC2.
Two.
Yeah,
Yep.
I ran it in the second player's
I
cup.
ran it in the first one.
Yeah, I didn't do very good.
Nope.
But
We learned.
whatever.
Another one you could do is Ninetales, Volcarona, Rhyperior. You could also add a Dusclops on there because what I really like to do, as you can see here, this is my Sun team. I really like Trick Room in Sun. Mm-hmm. One of the main reasons I like Trick Room in Sun is because Venusaur is so naturally bulky. I do have a little bit of HP investment on this, and I'm running Assault Vest. But it's honestly because of Torkoal.
Yeah.
Torkoal is such a big threat because he's so bulky. He's got a base 80 special attack, and then he's got Eruption, which in doubles hits both opponents. Stab, the more HP you have, the higher base power, and it's fire, so it's getting boosted from the sun. You've got the charcoal item, so it's getting a 20% boost there.
I've been erased by
by
Trick Room, Eruption, Torkoal.
He gets double kill. I've literally got a double kill in one turn of clicking.
You lost to one in the Players' Cup.
Yep, I lost to one.
And you just bring a Sand team.
Yep, so it's definitely powerful. It's a very potent threat.
Yeah, you had an Incineroar out there. It was a 2-hit KO on Incineroar, guys.
Yep, 2-hit KO on the Incineroar. So yeah, being able to set up Trick Room for other things like Rhyperior in the sun, because then he can fire off fire punches or earthquakes.
Yep.
High horsepower depending on what you're doing. Being able to set up a Trick Room for Torkoal or Venusaur, because then like he would slow speed the if somebody has a tailwind on the opposing side, or if they set up their own weather. You know what I mean? You still have some agency to play around in the speed tier game.
One thing I want to say about the core that I listed, I like Rhyperior because this is more so for singles. I like Ninetales as a Sun starter because she does get Will-O-Wisp and can play a more offensive role.
Nasty Plot.
She gets Nasty Plot, Flamethrower, Fire Blast, gets Scorching Sands as well. So that burn utility is really nice. And then I like Volcarona offensively as a sweeper.
Yep.
And I like Rhyperior on there to soak up the rock type moves for both of those Pokemon. And he doesn't take so much from Rain. So if you play in a Dynamax format and you put him in the sun and give him a weakness policy, then
and because he's
strong.
got Solid Rock plus the sun reducing the damage of water moves. And if you can get one that's on the physical side, you can actually live quite a bit.
Yeah.
He's actually really bulky.
Yep. So I think that's kind of all I've got to say about the sun.
Yeah, Sun's really fun. It's interesting because it lets you bring, I think, a more diverse. Like rain, I almost said water. Rain lets you bring you'll see a lot of combos of water and electric types, and then sun you see a lot of combos of fire and grass. But I think more commonly in sun, if this one doesn't necessarily have it, but a lot of times you might see a ground type.
Yeah.
Especially moving into Series 8 next week, with Groudon being the new premier drought ability user.
Goodbye, Torkoal.
Yep, Torkoal's going to get... I think we still might see some Torkoal, but I think it might be like... They might have like a secondary Sun setter on their team.
It'll
so they
probably
might
be
bring
Yawn.
Bro.
It'll probably be like a Yawn.
The defensive Yawn with maybe Willow Body Press.
Yeah.
Heat Wave, maybe Lava Plume, stuff like that.
Yep. One last thing to note about the weathers. They only last 5 turns, however... they can
All
be,
of it. This is universal rule now. Doesn't matter. It's not just Sun.
They can be extended to 8 turns if you've got the corresponding items, which are the Damp Rock, Smooth Rock, Icy Rock, and Heat Rock. I think you can tell which ones go to which weather.
We have them in order, so just follow the podcast.
And that helps extend it through every means of starting. So SANDSTORM, you get 8 turns. Rockfall, you get 8 turns.
Yep.
You use
and
the
that
move
counts
SANDSTORM.
if it turned like for sorry to cut you off, but for example, he brings a Torkoal and I bring a Polytoad. Now this part is we haven't necessarily touched on, and it's very important.
Oh yeah.
Yep, you read my mind.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
So there's 2 things I want to touch on here. So first of all is the speed. So whichever Pokemon, so the way that it works is the Pokemon that comes out first, their ability activates when they come out, and you come out at the beginning of the game. So like it's turn 1, okay?
Yep.
We come out at our speed tier. So if Polytoad is faster than the Torkoal, then Brandon's avatar in game is going to throw his Pokeball first and send out his Pokemon first. So his rain is going to get started. Then I send out my Torkoal. That's just how the game works. It's kind of like how chess, you always start with white pieces.
Yeah.
It's the same type of thing. So then that turn 1, the rain's going to start first. Then the Torkoal comes out and the sun gets started. So at the end of turn 1, I actually have priority in terms of weather control.
Yep.
So what you can do there, and if I have the Heat Rock, it's 8 turns. And if you have the Damp Rock, yours is just turned off. So what you can do is a lot of times, especially in VGC, people will leave their weather starter abilities. I did this a lot in my Players' Cup with my Gigalith. You bring him, but you bring him in the back. So turn 1, somebody will lead like Torkoal Venusaur, knowing that the Torkoal is the slowest weather starter, so they always are going to win that.
Yep.
Just naturally, it's just how the math works. Every Torkoal wins.
Yep.
So what I do is you bring Gigalith in the back. They then turn 1, they're going to do their whatever they have, and you have the option turn 1 to then switch in Gigalith, and it shuts off Sandstorm, or turns on Sandstorm and shuts off the sun the second he switches in.
Yep.
And if he has, and it works for any weather, so again, if you have the Smooth Rock on this hypothetical Gigalith, it will then start 8 turns. So then if you were to start the sun again in more hypotheticals, it's a new 8 turns, and a new 8 turns, or 5, or whatever. But that's really kind of an important play around, because a lot of times, especially moving forward, like we said, moving into this new Series 8, I think weather is going to be probably more prominent than it has. And it's already been pretty prominent.
Yeah, it has.
I think it's going to be more so than ever in Generation 8 so far. And we call it Weather Wars back in the day. Yep. I think it's going to be back to another Weather Wars format. So that's really important distinction, and it works the same way for terrain too. So that speed tier is really something to pay attention to. Yep. Also, while we're on this, I would like to touch on, you can use the same tricks like we talked about, how at the end of the turn it'll say it's raining, and then Dry Skin will activate, or it's hailing, and that's when you get buffeted, or sun comes down, and that's when Leaf Guard will activate. We've mentioned these before. That's another speed check.
Yep.
You wanna?
Yeah. So like, say you're both holding leftovers, both Pokemon, and the turn ends. If he eats his Alakazam, bad example, eats his leftovers before my Pincurchin, that means he's faster. So
that means you know the next turn who's faster.
Pay attention to that.
And it's the same thing for like if you're both in the hail and you're both weak to hail. Whoever gets buffeted first is faster for the next turn.
So that helps you out if they switch in. Pay attention to who takes damage first if you're both going to take damage.
Yep, that's really important to know.
That tells you who's faster, because that will reveal
those
things
are
like
those
Choice Scarf.
little tricks that turn you from a Pokemon trainer to a Pokemon master. And after all, that's what this class is all about.
Yes, sir. So yeah, I think that's kind of all we've got to say about weather today.
Yeah, I think that's a really good both introduction and kind of a deep dive, hopefully for both new beginners, new players, beginner trainers, and old masters alike. Gave you a little something to chew on here. This is basically our take on weather as a sort of an introductory topic starter.
Yep. It's a really good way to start building teams. So if you're new to team building,
really good structure.
Lean on some weather. It's got a lot of benefits that make your life easier.
Yep.
So before we go, just want to plug really quick that we started a Facebook page. I'll put a link in the description. We've got more showdown videos to post, a lot more battling stuff coming up.
Yep, we got some PU battles that are on deck, going to get posted probably this week or this weekend.
Yeah.
We've got...
I just did Specs Kyurem.
Just did the
in
Specs
UU.
Kyurem
I'll post a
video.
link to that.
And we're actually going to be having, I think, out in a couple of days, or maybe when this is out, it's already be out. But we're going to be doing some weather battles on Showdown.
Yeah, weather team building.
Keep in theme with this. So if somebody's really interested in what we've talked about today, then you can go forward, and we'll probably leave a link in the description to our battle video once that's posted.
Yeah, yeah.
You can go check out the video right down here in the description.
Yep.
Make sure you guys leave a thumbs up on our YouTube video. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell to stay updated on all of the Masterclass news.
Please subscribe. It's free. It helps us out a lot.
Make sure you share any content with any other prospective Pokemon masters or friends in your group, your local area. And make sure you go check out our Facebook group and make sure that you follow that to stay updated with any of our weekly posts. And anytime that we post content that, notes, videos.
Yeah, we'll be posting a lot of just whatever on there. We'll be posting very frequently on there. So if you want to keep
We're
up.
also going to be sharing our link codes to any teams that we make.
Yep. If you guys want certain team codes, let us know. Anything that we use today, we can probably post up there. So
Yep.
All right.
Alrighty. But until next time, I'm Justin.
I'm Brandon.
Class is dismissed.
See you later, guys.